Good morning. It's a beautiful day. I know it's a little overcast out, but it's really warm out. I was able to get in a 5K this morning. So, shout out to my friend Deb for getting me up at 7 to hit the pavement. But we have a great show today. This is Onward, and I'm your host, Adrianne Hamilton Butler. You're listening to Onward on WCEG, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life into the community. You can follow us now on WCEG Network on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, all of the social media platforms. So follow us because we have a great show today. I'm super excited to have hosts who are really involved in the community and all about creating safe spaces for single parents and for at-risk youth. Before I move on, I of course got to do my little spiel about how the opinions of this show are those of the host and guests, not of WCEG. Onward is a monthly podcast that delves into just basic conversations with everyday people about overcoming obstacles that are unwanted, uncertain, and unexpected, but how we turn those obstacles into inspiring others, encouraging others, and providing hope. And that's what these ladies do. Thank you, Tami Wilder of Positive Impact and Joy Monroe of Spark, the Single Parent Alliance Resource. What am I missing? Center, right? Yes.
That's correct.
And I especially want to thank them both because they are super busy ladies. I had no idea that they were so busy, but that's the life of folks who are doing community work. It's impactful work, and you are out hitting the pavement, making sure that people are being served well. And that's what's so important. I want to start with Joy because she actually has an event going on as we speak. She's doing a Mother's Morning Out for the ladies who she serves in her organization. And Joy, Single Parent Alliance Resource Center. So you work a lot apparently with moms and with dads who are single parents, and providing them resources, education, financial literacy, jobs, and helping the kids as well. But before we get into what Spark does, I want to learn a little bit about you and how you started Spark. What was the motivation for that?
Well, to be honest, it was never my intention to start a nonprofit. Spark kind of came about because I got divorced when I was in New York, and at the time my sons were young. Um, and I had read all of the information about being a single mom, particularly an African American single mom raising two boys. And it reads more like a horror story, really, than anything else, because the statistics are more frightening than encouraging. So I was nervous, but things for us were going really well. So we were really just kind of thriving and everything was great. So I thought, you know what? It's probably because I'm just amazing. So um, I came to Atlanta for a family reunion for a side of the family I had never really met before. So I came down here and I did what everybody else has done when they visit Atlanta. I went home and I was like, I'm moving to Atlanta. And everybody was like, what? I was like, I'm moving to the ATL. And my family was like, do you have a job? Do you know anyone? Like, what's happening? And I was like, first of all, I'm 20 something. I'm a fabulous single mom and I've got everything all together. So I'm going. And so I came, got here and realized that it wasn't that I was amazing. What was amazing was my support system,
Mm, yes,
which I did not have down here.
right.
So I started, looking around at some of the parents of my son's friends and some of the other single moms, and I started getting together at my house on the weekend. So we just hang out in my living room. We talk about the challenges of the week and we kind of help each other. Our kids would play, we cook together, eat together. We just kind of built our own support group. And I've always been fascinated by research and studies and parenting. So there'd always be some kind of lesson. But it was more support than anything else. And then the principal found out about it, and she's like, the parents are talking about this. Why don't you do it at the school? Because then you can have more parents. Then my pastor found out about it. He's like, you could also do this at the church. And it just started growing and growing and growing. And so eventually I incorporated, and here we are today.
I love that, Joy, how you talk about support and how that was really what kept you and your family together and helped you to be the best mom that you could be to your
Right.
sons. And
Mm-hmm.
so, Tami, I want to turn to you, Tami Wilder, who is the co-founder of Positive Impact International, because that's the same kind of thing for you, correct? That support. Talk a little bit, Tami, about Positive Impact International and how you came to be the co-founder of that organization.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on your show, and I'm so excited that I get to be on with one of my best friends, Joy. Um, I grew up in England. My dad is American, mom was English. My dad was a famous singer from the lead singer of the band Heatwave, and so we spent our lives like just touring and just doing a lot. But one thing that my parents always had me and my siblings doing was service projects. So if my dad did a big concert, a lot of times there was always something that he was giving back into whatever community and whatever state or country he was performing in. And so that just kind of became our normal. And I remember when I was 17, I said to my parents, I want to go to Jamaica. So I graduated early. And I'm like, I'd like to go to Jamaica. I have this obsession with reggae music. I am not from the islands, but just love the music. So my parents were like, okay, well, we will let you go with the youth corps. You can go for 2 weeks. But guess what? You're going to be serving in an orphanage for those 2 weeks. And I was kind of like, that was not what I asked. I said I wanted to go to the beaches. And then, anyway, so I went, and I will say that it changed my life. I had to work in an orphanage that had over 120 babies, 2 and under, 3 workers. So the cribs were just lined up. And those babies would self-soothe. They just rock back and forth. And our jobs, as all the teenagers that were there, were just to go hold them, change them, feed them. And I remember I was holding this one little girl. She was about 6 weeks old. And I thought, I'm 17 at the time. And I'm like, I don't know what it is I'm going to do in life. I think it's going to have something to do with children.
Mm.
Right? So fast forward years later, we moved to Atlanta. And I looked around just our community and I just saw that so many kids were getting in trouble. There were so many resources that we lacked or that people didn't know about and with underserved families. So I remember talking to my parents and just saying, I'm probably like in my late 20s at this time. And I'm like, we need to start an organization where we have a community center where kids from all families, you can be underserved in so many different ways, get to come and just be kids, right? And we can do it with the arts, we can do it with, whatever. So we did that and it was wonderful. We'd have hundreds of kids come out every week just for 2 hours. They would just pick whatever classes they wanted to take. Professionals would teach them. Then we got approached by National Safe Place, and they were like, Gwinnett County's children's shelter closed down, and it became a different type of shelter. Because they were like, because you guys are so invested in the community and children, would you be interested in becoming the emergency youth shelter for Gwinnett? So never done that before. And so we were like, sure. So my mum and I are the ones that really kind of spearheaded it. And we opened up host homes. And then recently we've opened up about 5 homes in Gwinnett County. We've probably had past 18 months, probably a little under 200 kids come through our shelter.
Oh,
Um,
that's amazing.
yeah, we work really closely with Gwinnett County Public Schools. We work closely with Gwinnett County Juvenile Court, and we basically serve kids that are 17 and under,
Okay.
Gwinnett County and all north. And then we also hit DeKalb County, Fulton County, Henry County, Clayton County. And then we also realized that our kids were turning 18, right? They've been with us through high school and there was no
Right.
to go. So then we started the transitional living program and we're working on a whole bunch of other things, just basically to prevent these kids from becoming homeless adults and to give them the tools that they need so that they have same opportunities as any other child to be successful and meet their goals.
So this is interesting because you said you made a comment about people are underserved in different ways, right? And I want to ask both of you, because both of you serve what people will call underserved communities. But let's talk about what that really looks like with the agencies that you both started. Joy, I'll start with you. What does the population look like that you're serving, and what are their needs?
So I would say for my population, I have two distinct kind of subsets of my population. So for single parents in general, there's just the need for community, for support, for just managing all of the tasks that you have, for managing a job as an individual that two people typically find overwhelming. If you talk to parents today, two parent families, both of the parents are overwhelmed with all of the
Right,
responsibilities. So you take that and you put it on one person, just managing that becomes its own need. But
right,
then in addition to that, single parents are typically overrepresented in every negative statistic that there is. If you look at poverty, it's single parents. If you look
right.
at children that are ending up in the juvenile courts, the parents are single parents. If you look at children dropping out of high school, their parents are single parents.
Mhm,
So then it becomes the issues of homelessness and
mhm.
financial literacy and all of the other things that come with that. So the issue of poverty is its own issue, but the issue of being
Right.
a single parent living in poverty just becomes exponentially more difficult. So I
Okay.
have populations that have to deal with poverty and those issues. And then I just have single parents, and you have to deal with the issues that relate to single parents. And if you look at agencies that are serving families, if you ask them the majority of the families that they're serving, they're going to be single parents.
Right.
But are they being strategic and intentionally serving single parents? And
That's
are
right.
they asking single parents what their needs are? Typically, they're not. They're handling
Okay.
homelessness, but they're not handling homelessness for single parent families because those needs are a little bit different. So I feel like we do a lot of programming at single parents, but we don't do programming for single parents and
That's
with
right.
single parents.
So before I go to Tammy, you hit on some really good topics, and I want to talk a little bit about the whole issue of poverty and single parents, because to your point, we talk about poverty and homelessness, but we really don't talk about community building and belonging and helping people to feel safe,
Mhm.
helping people to deal with the trauma and the challenges that they're going through. It's let's just throw money at it. And that money alone doesn't change things.
No.
So, talk a little bit about how you help moms to build community and to feel safe so that they can move forward.
So I'll take, for example, last Saturday we had an event called Spark in the Park. And
Mm,
that is an event where we just go to, Gwinnett County is famous for its parks. So we just go to a park, we grill, we invite all of the single parents. You don't have to be someone who participated in our program, but we do
nice.
invite every parent that we've served. But if you're a single parent, you're welcome. And that is our version of the backyard cookout.
Yeah.
All of the cousins and the aunties and the uncles and the grandparents and parents all come together. So all the kids get to play together. It's also it stems from how we started in my living room. So this is us in the backyard, and it gives single parents from everywhere an opportunity to connect and build that sense of community and understanding that if you can connect with other single parents who are walking the same path that you're walking, we're all on the same journey here. This is your safe space. This is
Yes.
where you can come. This is where you're safe. This is where, when you share what you're going through, people get you.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
yeah, so it's our way of creating that sense of community. Even today, with the mom's morning out, I know a few moms are going out together just to have breakfast because they
Nice.
don't get a break. So this is their opportunity to take the break. We have their kids for a couple of hours. They know their kids are safe, so they can go out and catch a break, and they're going together because that was also encouraged. Build your
I
sense
love
of
that.
community. I don't know if you know that our slogan is, I don't know if you can see it, single does not mean alone.
That is awesome. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That really does speak to building community and
Hmm.
that sense of belonging, because I'm sure a lot of single parents do feel like they're just in it by themselves
They
and they
do.
don't know what to do. And so
Right.
I'm glad that there's an organization like yours, Joy, that supports them. Tammy, I want to move to you because it's the same thing with youth. And I want to talk a little bit about the youth that are in the situation where they come to an organization like yours. How does that happen, and what are their needs?
So I would say that it's funny because there is no like typical child that comes
Mhm.
to us, right? And so we've got, I'll just throw out some different scenarios. So we've got a boy who's 15, his grandmother, so both his parents are deceased. His grandmother's been
Mhm.
with him, but she moved into like a senior living,
Right.
and you're not allowed to have anyone under the age of whatever living there. So she's been having him in her apartment like the past 3 years, or somebody
Mhm.
found out, and it was basically he has to go, or they both have to go. And so therefore, it's not that this young boy came from a horrible family. His grandmother's
Right.
actually extremely loving, but she can't afford to live anywhere else. And
Right.
so that's the situation where he's with us, and he'll be with us until through high school, right? Then we have other
Right.
situations where, mom kicks out teenage daughter because she's pregnant,
Mhm.
um, and it forces her to have an abortion. The girl doesn't want to have one, so she's on the street. And we get a phone call, and this girl was 16 years old, right? So she comes with us. We get her through her pregnancy, through other partnerships. Then her and her baby now are with us. Then you have the one that is a bit more typical, where you have, kids are being abused at home. We have one girl who her dad sexually abused her, got locked up. The family turned on the young lady and said, well, if you hadn't opened your mouth, we still would have had a home, because dad was the breadwinner. So we still would have had a home. We would have had this, we would have had that. You've now ruined life for your siblings. So now this girl's living with this guilt, where she did the right thing and she actually protected her siblings.
Right.
Was talking about that, so she was being treated so bad, where the schools are calling. And then the last example I'll give you, which is just one of many, is we've had quite a few of our boys. In Gwinnett County, we don't have very many family shelters, right?
Right. That's
And
right.
there are so many providers as well. So when you have a family that's got multiple children, and you've got,
Yes.
so it will disqualify the family from getting into shelters because their kids are above age. So we've had
That's
kids
right.
who have told their parents that they're staying with a friend, but really they're sleeping outside of the libraries, the warehouses. The police find them, bring them to school. And these kids weren't bad kids. They literally were just trying to give their family an opportunity to get help. But they are now in unsafe situations. So those
Right.
would be a lot of the reasons why, kids come to us. Then your second question about what are the needs. So, if you think of just a teenager, right? I say 12 to 17, 18 years old, they need stability, they need structure, they need love, they need the opportunities to be able to just be a kid and be on that sports team. They need help with their homework, they need clothes, they need to learn about hygiene, they need to learn about the workforce. There's so many, just whatever your own children would need going through. Our kids have
Mhm.
the same needs, and their needs are a little bit more because they've lacked some of the basics for years, and they've kind of operating off of survival skills. So sometimes
Yes.
we have to start from the very beginning, not expecting them to know, because you're 16, you should know, right?
Right.
But really going back and saying, okay, I may have to start like you're 12 or like you're 10,
Mhm.
and really go through those steps and morals. And, kids nowadays are so funny because eye contact and social skills are just kind of non-existent because they do everything through.
Right.
So even just being able to teach them, like, just, take your earphone out your ear, someone's
Yeah.
talking, look someone in the eye, not
Yes.
be afraid of physical contact, and feeling more secure behind that phone, because the rest of the world doesn't operate like that right now. So I think that there are so many different types of needs that these kids have, and that's why mentoring is so huge, right? Because these it takes a
Absolutely.
village for us to do this. Our organization, we can't do this for ourselves, but it really
Yeah.
takes community coming together and saying, what do our kids need?
You both brought up some really good points because I think a lot of times in our communities, we tend to not have the right perspective or understanding of single parents or teens in crisis, right? And sometimes we want to blame the parents or blame the teens for being in this situation rather than understanding what led to this. I want to talk a little bit, Tami, about the services you provide because you mentioned helping a young mother and child. Do you have residential services? Okay,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have 5 homes in Gwinnett County, and the way our houses are based is we have house parents in each of those homes. And there's no more than 2 kids in a bedroom, no more than 6 kids in a house. Um, and we basically, it's a family environment. I personally, I've done a lot of work and volunteer work and worked with other programs where they're more like residential programs where you've
Right.
got 20, 30 teenagers and staff in and out.
Yeah.
And, the success rate of those kids are not very high, right?
Okay.
And I think a lot of it is the attention to detail, right? So they're
Yeah.
not a group of kids. Then you get these kids that come from all different traumas, put them in a building together and then expect them to function in a healthy way.
Right.
Just it very rarely happens. So with our model, we like to do the host home model. So again,
Okay.
the smaller group of kids, house parents are the same parents that live there day in, day out. They
Oh,
are
wow.
you know,
Okay.
they're treating them like their kids. They are involved in the schools. They're involved in their medical care, every step of their life. It's kind of like on foster kids, but they're not foster kids, right?
Okay.
So we do that, and then while the kids are in our program, so for our teen mum, we partner with Obria. They do all of her postnatal, prenatal, doula services. Then the pediatric services for the baby for the first year, parenting classes. Excuse me. And then for all of our kids, we have them meet with a financial advisor, and
Great.
they have to save 80% of their money once we get them working, put 80% into their savings account. And then we do like classes where it's just financial literacy about, bank accounts, credit,
Yes.
trying to help them understand. Because when you turn 18, everyone's trying to give you a credit card, and you're like, free money. And we're like, nope, that's not the case. You're gonna have a bill. But then we also make sure that all of our kids are in therapy. So we have an in-house therapist that does a lot of holistic therapy with kids because our kids kind of get scared of the word therapy.
Yes.
They meet
Yes.
per week, individual group therapy sessions, therapy session. When I say family, I mean with their house parents and the kids
Oh,
that
that's
they're
great.
living with. And then we will bring in like other professionals to come and do whether it's workforce development,
Right.
just what's the word? Giving them access to just different things that they're going to be experiencing. We had meditation classes, and but
Oh,
we
great.
like I think one of the things I love about our program is that we work really closely with kids. So we'll ask them, "What do you guys need?" Right? The last session that we had last month, this vaping and smoking
Mm.
marijuana, it's coping skills. A lot of our kids, they've
Right.
been weed since they were 12 years old, and their parents rolled up a joint with them.
Right.
So when they come into our program and we're like, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they're like, this is what I
Right.
do. Trying to help them see other coping skills, right? We've got a few of our kids that are autistic, so bringing in spectrum,
Mm.
them come and teach us, but then also provide services for our kids. So we kind of like are along the way figuring out what the needs are, and if we can't do it, we're bringing somebody else in that can, so that they have all the tools they need to be successful.
I love how you mentioned helping kids with their coping skills because it looks different for every child, but there are negative behaviors that come along with this because they're just trying to survive. And they've been doing it for a long time. And I bet, Joy, you see the same thing with your moms. And I love how Tami talked about bringing in other resources like therapists to help the children. What are some of the resources that you're bringing in for the moms to help them as they're moving forward and trying to become self-sufficient?
So one of the things, like I said, our slogan for our moms is single does not mean alone, but we take that on as an agency as well. So we partner. Tami said it best. If we don't provide the service, we find someone who does.
Right.
We do a lot of work with families that are living in extended stay motels, as a matter of fact, as well. So
Right.
for families that are in motels, we've got a couple of populations. So we have the population that has just simply gotten stuck. They're working, they make sufficient income, they're paying their motel each week on time because they have the money, but they can't save enough money to move from the motel to an apartment of their own. So the families are homeless simply because they've just gotten stuck.
That's
So
right.
through our motel to home program, we provide the security deposit in the first month's rent so that a family can transition from homelessness to stably housed. They qualify for an apartment on their own that they choose so that they can live where they want to live. We don't dictate that or mandate they have to
Yeah,
stay in a certain location. They find an apartment, get qualified. Once they get approved and get their welcome letter, we pay their moving fees so that they can transition. And then because they were previously independent, they continue their independence, but now they are no longer homeless. They're in an apartment of their own. So for those families, we then provide financial literacy services. So we partner with banks to come in and provide some financial counseling because, of course, going from a weekly budget to a monthly budget, there's a transition involved in that. And also to help them establish an emergency savings account because that's a
yes,
lot of why they ended up in the motel in the first place. You know, you're living
exactly.
check to check, and as long as things stay the same, you'll be okay. But as soon as something goes wrong, you get thrown off. And that's
That's right.
typically what happens to our families. So we partner with banks and other financial institutions to come and provide really quite extensive financial education for our families. And then we also do the savings match. Then outside of that population, there's another population that's kind of almost ready. They're in the
Okay.
motels and they are able to make it from week to week, but they're barely making it because they're
Right,
underemployed.
right.
So we bring in at that's when we partner with workforce development to come in and either help parents earn additional skills so that they can qualify for other employment, or they're already qualified, they just didn't know to look. So to match them with employment that pays a higher wage, so that they can then qualify for the motel to home program so that they can move. Our goal, particularly for families living in extended stay motels, because those families are not, according to HUD guidelines, homeless families.
Right.
Because they have a roof over their head, they're considered sheltered. But the schools consider their children homeless, and
Right,
the
right.
children are classified as homeless by the school district. So helping families transition has become one of our major passions.
Yes.
Um, like I said, so we do have to bring partners to the table sometimes to ensure that those families are able to move and able to sustain themselves.
I want to just talk a little bit about something that I think a lot of people don't understand. Number one, HUD. To your point, HUD does not classify families living in hotels as homeless.
Correct.
Even though the reason that a lot of these families are living in hotels is because of the barriers put in place by apartment complexes. Can you talk a little bit about those barriers? Because we all know that hotels weekly cost more than living in an apartment, but
Correct.
families are forced to do that. Talk a little bit about that.
So we are in the middle of our survey of families that are living in extended stay motels. We went to Charlotte and we surveyed, I think it was 240 families, and we are closing out our Atlanta survey. So when we ask these families, what are your barriers to moving out? The most common barriers are you don't make three times the rent. So
Right,
you have to make three times the rent in order to qualify for an apartment. And with what they have done with rent prices over the last couple of years, you can't be low
right,
income. You can barely be mid income and
right.
make three times the rent as your monthly income. So that's a barrier. If you have managed, unfortunately, to get an eviction on your record,
Yes.
um, our experience has shown it is easier to house someone with a felony than it is to house someone with an eviction.
Mhm.
So an eviction is just a significant barrier. And surprisingly, another reason families are stuck is their credit score is too low.
Right,
So,
right.
the barriers, apartment complexes, to be fair, if you are a landlord, and you can cherry pick a population to live, you would not pick someone with low credit. You would
That's
not pick
right.
someone with, I mean, so to a degree, I understand that. But once we look at what the real world looks like, so what you're basically at that point saying then is if you have a low credit score or if you have an eviction, or if you don't make three times this astronomical rent that we're charging, then motels are your only solution. And living in
Right,
an extended stay motel is one room with a two
right.
burner stove and a refrigerator. So the majority of our population is a single mom with three children. So that's four people living in one room. And we have interviewed families that have as many as nine children, all
Mm,
living in one room.
Right.
And I
Right.
And
think,
families are not staying in motels for 30 days, turning it around and moving out. We are interviewing families that are there for a year and 5 years.
Right.
And so
Right.
families are living there. When we ask our families, um, do you consider this a residence? 90% of our families have said that the motel is their residence. It's not that they're
Mm.
visiting, it's not a temporary place for them, it is their residence. And
Right.
I had, we were doing outreach 2 weeks ago, and I spoke to one mom. She was sitting in her car when we were doing outreach in the hotel. So I went to her car to talk to her, and she only has the one child. She has a teenage daughter, and she said my daughter's a teenager, and so sometimes,
Mm.
I know she just wants some privacy. So I just come out and I sit in my car so she can have some privacy, and I talked to her about moving out. They had been there for 5 years, and she said that they had applied to so many apartments and had been rejected so many times that she hasn't even applied in the last couple of months. So she's just thinking, well, my daughter will be a senior next year and she'll graduate and she'll go to
Mm.
college. And at that point, that's when we'll leave.
Wow. Tammy, what were you going to add?
yeah, I was just going to say that, I think the other thing that, uh, a lot of people fail to realize with the extended stays is that they're not safe for our
Right.
kids.
That's
And
right.
and our kids are, there's so many things that are made available to them. The different types of people that are sometimes,
Right.
and you get kids, they want to play outside, they want to, and so there's a part of their childhood that's being stifled because of,
Yes.
or when you've got parents that are working, 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 and their kids are just
Exactly.
kind of left at the extended stay,
Right.
and God knows what is going on. If you just pull up to one, you can see. And I think that, it pains my heart that that in itself isn't enough for the county, the peoples that be, whoever, to sit down and say, we've got to do something. We've got a
Exactly.
family staying in an extended stay for 5 years. You know what
Right.
they're paying. Why aren't we having programs that
That's
then
right.
being made to put money aside? Or why aren't we having more organizations like
Exactly.
come through and say, okay, listen, we're going to have to figure this out. We're going to have to figure out a way, to in the next however many months, put this money and or the organizations step up and rent the apartments for the families. And I mean, there's so many loopholes, and Joy and I talk about this all the time, really trying to figure out how do we get in those loopholes and make some changes happen. Because the number is not going down,
No, it's going
you
up.
know,
It's
it's
going up.
down.
And what a lot of people also don't realize is that these are working parents.
Yes.
These
And
are
they
not
have
parents that are
income.
just sitting around. These are parents
Right.
and they're working very hard. A lot of times they're working jobs where they don't have benefits or they're cobbling together multiple part-time jobs.
Yes.
They don't want to leave their children alone. But a lot of times that's what they have to do in order to survive. I want to go back a little bit to teens and boys in particular, because I think another thing that people don't understand when we talk about family shelters, domestic violence shelters, a lot of times once your son, sometimes it can be as low as 16, but a lot of times at 18, they're not allowed to be in the shelters and they will separate them from the family, which is detrimental. They're still a part of the family. So, Tammy, talk a little bit about that aspect that people don't know about when we're trying to
Yeah.
keep families together, but the systems make it such that the boys have to separate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and specifically, many shelters it's 13 that the boys can't be in there, right? And so we get a lot of those boys, and it's heartbreaking because if you just think about, forget boy and girl, what you were like when you were 13, and how
Right.
scary it is to now be separated from your family. And also a lot of times kids don't understand the systems that be, right? So they're just kind of like, well, why do I have to be the one that's separate? I'm not dangerous. And, how can my siblings get to, you know, get
Right.
to be in the program? And then,
Right.
so which then does something to these kids, their psyche, their emotion. Then it's like they've got this internal anger. And this is what we see in
Yes.
therapy, right? They're angry boys, beautiful, lovely boys. They're
Yes.
angry boys because they don't understand, or they have now been made to step up and
Yeah.
grow up real fast because now they go, I've got to protect my family, I've got to protect my
Right.
family. So like I said, like I gave you the example before. So then you've got boys who are lying and saying, "Mom, don't worry, I'm at my friend's house." So that mum and younger siblings will go to a shelter and they are sleeping on the street. Now they're being approached. right? By
Right.
the people that we don't want approaching our children. But for them,
Right.
in survival school, they didn't ask for this life. They didn't ask, but there aren't that many resources
No.
available, right? And I think that one of the things that our county also has to, look at a little different is what homelessness looks like in Gwinnett County.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's not the same as what you would think in Atlanta or New York or even London, right? It's, some of our kids aren't considered homeless if they're staying on somebody's couch,
That's right.
right? But
Right.
they're staying in people's sheds, they're staying in their friends' parents' cars, right?
That's
They
right.
are homeless. But because you don't see them on the street camping out, it's like we've got homeless children, and I think
Right.
that I I really I really stand by it takes a village. I stand by that it takes everyone to not have the perspective of it's not my child, not which is what a lot of people do. But no, it might not be your child, but it is our problem, right? And that's one of
Yes.
the grateful about National Safe Places. Like every quick trip is a safe place site for us, right?
Right.
You see the
Yeah.
yellow and black signs.
Can you go back to that and tell people
Yeah,
that one more time? Because
yeah,
I think
so
a lot of people don't know that.
every quick trip and every YMCA nationally are safe play sites. So if a child is in any unsafe situation, it doesn't even have to be that they don't have somewhere to stay per se, but they're
Right.
unsafe in the community. National Safe Place basically were like, we've got to make our community feel a sense of responsibility for our kids. So when they're out in the community and things are happening, a lot of times kids are the windows into what's going on into the family, right, Joy? Like it's the kids sometimes reaching out or their behaviors or that you're like, wait, something's going on. So next question, where's mom? Where's dad? Where's grandma, right? So these kids can show up at any of these locations. They're taught in Gwinnett County high schools about the signs and what to do if you're in
Yes.
trouble. And then when they get to, let's just say, a quick trip, there's 24 hours. The quick trips are trained to contact either my organization or
Okay.
Christian City, who is in Noonan, Georgia. So we kind of handle all of Metro Atlanta. Keep them safe. We usually are able to get there within 30 to 40 minutes and
Wow.
take that child to one of our safe place homes.
That's
If
amazing.
it's an extreme abuse situation, we call DFACS. Sometimes it takes DFACS 5 hours to respond. So in that time, what happens to that child? So
Right.
it's just a way that we as a community, any small business can say, I'd like to be a safe place site, put the sign out front, get trained so that they also are a safe place in the community kids to go to when they are crying out for help. Sometimes it's intimidating when you are running from danger and you end up in the back of a police car. For a child,
Yes.
it's just not you think you're not in trouble, right? You're calling for help. So that's basically how it's set up. But again, just that village concept of us coming together and especially for our boys and especially for our
Yes.
color, I will say that.
Yes.
The boys of color are our targets and we have got to protect them. We've got to protect all kids. But I feel like our boys of color automatically kind of get moved into that negative side, and
I
we've got
agree.
to do better, right, with
Right.
protecting kids.
And so, yeah, and to your point about how homelessness looks, I was in the homelessness space in Atlanta for a while, and there is the appearance that homelessness is only like adult males living on the street. That's not it. There are many families and children who are living in, like you said, living with friends, couch surfing, hidden, and people don't understand that the needs are significant because Tami, how many children are you able to serve?
So at one time we have 29 beds.
So
Um,
29 beds.
29 beds at one time. Just
And
not enough.
that's what I was going to say, because how you probably have calls every single day where
Well, I
you
have like a
can't meet
wait
the
list.
need.
I have a
Right,
wait list right now of about 67 kids. And that's just through the Gwinnett County school system. That's
right.
including kids from other counties that we get calls from. So
That's
yeah,
right.
it's not enough.
And Joy, how many families are you able to serve?
So we moved over 100 families last year.
And
And so we are
again,
part of a larger Motel to Home Alliance. And through the alliance, we moved 1,000 families. But according to the numbers, which are difficult to calculate because no one counts
yes,
these families because, again,
that's
they're not
right.
homeless.
That's
But
right.
there is a statistic that says that the Metro Atlanta area has over 25,000 families living in motels.
Exactly. Exactly. So there just isn't enough for our teens and our families who are on the verge of homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness. And so, what I want to do with the time that we have left is one, give you both an opportunity to talk about your needs, how people can support you, either as volunteers or donors or what have you. So, Tami, I'll start with you. How can people help Positive Impact International?
I think, and thank you for asking that. I think one of the ways would be, if people are interested in volunteering, I get people asking me all the time, like, how can I, volunteer? And I always say, what's your talent? What's your skill? What do you have to offer a child? Whatever that is, let's make it happen. Let's create a program. Let's create a special day where you come in. A lot of other things would be like donation items of like toiletries. A lot of our kids come with nothing. So we're very particular about just not giving them like, no offense to the dollar store, but like just the stuff that's not going to work on their hair or that's going to break out their skin, but really quality products to make sure that that the overall health is being looked at. Food donations are always great. These kids can eat.
Mm,
So, we have a few
okay,
churches that will come together and do frozen meals and or come and cook for the kids or teach them how to cook, right? So those are some of like the day-to-day things that we need. Then I would say that of course, monetary donations are always wonderful.
right,
Housing is a huge part. It's not all that our kids need, but we can't really focus on the wraparound services if they don't have a place,
right.
right? So, 9 times out of 10, I would say 90% of any money that is donated to us goes directly to housing, utilities, so that we can keep them in safe homes. And then the last thing I would say is, from another perspective, Joy and I have had many conversations about organizations that are also in this space and are trying to
Yes,
figure out how do they get more involved, partnering up, right? Using your resources, coming together. Joy and I are working on some things right now, even though, our target focus are on two different ends, but we do cross.
yes,
And, being willing to go outside the box and just say, like, what else can we do? What else can I do for maybe it's not a child, but if I've got resources that can help for furniture, and I've got
yes,
another organization that's moving a mum into an apartment and needs furniture, maybe we can, and being willing to share amongst organizations, because a lot of times the organizations get a lot of resources. We can't necessarily use all of them, right? But if
right,
we all come together and help each other, if the community comes in and just pours their gifts in and the extra, it literally, it can seem like when we're talking about what the needs are, it can be overwhelming and be like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's just
right,
so many needs. But I think if everybody kind of looked at that 5 to 10% that they can do, not money wise, but I mean like whether it's money or it's an action or it's a whatever, just doing that 5 to 10%. And if everybody did that, do the math,
yes.
right, we would be able to fill in a lot of gaps in the community of the demographics of people serving.
If there are people who are listening today and want to volunteer, want to donate, how can they do that?
So for my organization, they
Yes.
go to our website to donate, which is www.thepositiveimpact.org. And then also, I like to direct people to our Facebook, which is Positive Impact
Mm,
National. And I say
okay.
that because on our Facebook, we post real time. We're posting the events we're doing with the kids. We're posting achievements of the kids. We're posting new partnerships, new programs we're starting, how the programs are going. So if people have donated, they can go and
Yes.
they can look and see because we want people to feel connected, right? So if you give to us, whether it's your time, your money, I want you to like really see the impact that you personally made, right? So I love
Yes.
to direct people to our Facebook account so you can get like like an inside view of what's going on.
I love that. And Joy, same question. What are your needs and how can people help you out?
You know what? I truly thank you for asking that question. Um, we welcome volunteers in really all capacities. We serve single parent families. So, any talent or skill you have, we can put it to good use. If you want to facilitate a workshop, if you want to join us at outreach at these motels where you can get to meet these families for
Mm,
yourselves. Um,
wow.
our Mom's Morning Out was born of one volunteer because she said, you know what, when I was a single parent, the one thing that I needed the most was a break. So that's where today came from. So she is volunteering and she has brought her friends with her, and they have brought the crafts, and they're going to do Mother's Day crafts with the kids. So if there's something that, as Tami said, if there's something you're passionate about, I promise you we can
Yes.
make it happen. For donations, we always welcome hygiene supplies. And our moms truly, truly, truly appreciate cleaning supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, all those things that food stamps can't
Yeah.
buy, always come in handy for us. So we welcome those at any time. And of course, we welcome funding. It costs
Yes.
us $2,500 to move a family from homelessness to housed. So any financial donation, you ask people all the time, we have these great conceptual conversations, if you could change the world, I would end homelessness. I would end, well, you can end homelessness for at least
Yes.
one family for $2,500. So what we have done is we have quantified the cost of homelessness. So for donations, if you'd love to end homelessness for one family, 2,500. If you want to end homelessness for 10 families, of course. At that point, it just becomes a math problem. So we have
Right.
capacity to do the work. We just welcome additional funding so that we can move additional families. As we talked about, the need is not decreasing, that need is increasing.
Right.
So we welcome partnership at all levels. We are also interested in partners who want to coach our families. So again,
Mm.
if you have a passion about anything, we work in apartment complexes. We have financial classes for the parents. We do our Spark in the Park. There's a place for you here. Single does not mean alone, so we welcome partners.
I love that. And how can people donate or get in contact with you, Joy?
So you can come to our website, www.singleparent411.org. Again, that's www.singleparent411.org. But we also are really active on social media. So if you want to follow us, we are at Single Parent 411 on all the platforms. So if you go to Instagram, send us a message, go to Facebook, send us a message, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever those channels are. We are most active on we're most active, I believe, on LinkedIn and Facebook. So you can follow us there and you can stay up to date with everything that we've got going on. If you check us out later, you'll see pictures from our Mother's Morning Out activity
Love it.
today.
So, we have a few minutes left, and I want to just talk a little bit about Tami and Joy because these are women who are super busy, but have really given their souls and their time to serving the community. And their organizations are amazing, by the way. I just want to highlight, we'll start with Positive Impact International because I was talking to Tami before the show came on, and she told me that last night they were recognized by the Gwinnett County Bar Association. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But the other thing that's coming up is Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition of Georgia, which is celebrating 50 years, will be honoring Positive Impact International and Tami as an, what is it, Inspiring Mothers. You've helped me with this.
Inspiring Mothers Award.
Yes, the Inspiring Mothers Award, which I think is amazing. And at Tami, you don't look it, but you have 4 children, 2 teenagers of your own, and you have adopted 2 children, as well as the children that you have in your program. How do you do it all?
And it was so funny. It's funny because I when I found out that I was getting this award, first of all, I was like, oh, wow, what? Because I think like when I first started this organization with my mom, my kids were a lot younger. So the boys, we did, of course, they were only born. But my daughters were, 3 and 6, like they were young. And it was a lot easier, say, to work with all the other children and bring my kids along. And I would say that it has become challenging to raise teenage girls alongside with 18 to 25 other teenagers,
Yeah.
and then have the boys, and a lot of times as a mom, we're always going to be so hard on ourselves, right? Am I doing enough?
Yes.
Needs of my kids? Am I pouring more to the other kids? And because I know my kids are fine, and sometimes that's kind of like the thing, right? That like, oh, my kids are fine, my kids are fine. When really like they struggle sometimes, right? And
Mm.
so, and I feel like there's only one of me, and I'm 1,000 direction. So a lot of times, like, you can feel like, am I and am I being best mom? And so, I think I was having like just a week, and then I got the email saying that I got the award, and And honestly, I thank my mother because my mum is a huge support, and I just couldn't do any of this without her. Um, but I'm just like I think like Joy was saying, like you need support, right? I am a single mother, and it's not easy. But somehow God gives us this strength that,
Yes.
even when you're sitting there in tears in the shower, because your kids are just acting like they've lost their mind, and you just sit there and all I can say is like, we made it through the day, right? Everyone is safe, no one got hurt.
Yeah.
I may have the teachers on my phone every other day for the 5-year-old or my 13-year-old. But I'm grateful to be a mom. I really am. I'm
No.
really grateful that they even thought of me. But I am really grateful to have these humans that
Yes.
that came from me or through adoption, and I just think there is no higher honor than to be a mom and to be an honorary
I
mom or both
agree with that.
to my kids in my program.
That is so awesome. So kudos to you and for the work that you're doing. Enjoy with Spark. I mean, you were well known in the community for your advocacy. You were recently even on a panel for the United Way of Greater Atlanta. And I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. But besides what you're doing today, you recently were recognized by the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce as a small business for the work that you're doing. And I think what's even more interesting is that you were recognized nationally as a change maker. And this was back during President Obama's time, but still to be recognized nationally for the work that you're doing to support single parents has to be amazing. And then you were telling me that there was an increase in the number of single parents in South Korea. So your organization was invited to speak about and provide research for how the parents can be helped in South Korea. Talk a little bit about that as well. I mean, that's a lot going on nationally and internationally for your organization. And I know for you, you probably never saw yourself in this role as someone who's a change maker.
No, like I said, it was never really my intention to run a nonprofit. So some days to me, Spark is still that organization, that started in my living room. So, when you're recognized by the White House or you're on an international call with South Korea, helping them, strategize on how to support their increasing single parent population, it's kind of like otherworldly in a way. Um, but it really kind of ties into what Tami said, just really about being a mom. You
Yeah,
know, you really just do the next thing that needs to be done.
yeah,
So, um, it was impressive to go to the White House and to be recognized as a change maker. And that whole day was kind of, it still goes down hands down as one of the best days ever. But it was just interesting to me that the work that we're doing here in Atlanta was put, in a national perspective. It was put on the national stage. So that was an incredible, incredible honor. Also, to be contacted by the State Department as well to provide resources to South Korea, also an incredible honor. Um, for the Gwinnett Chamber, which I can brag about the chamber for a while because they're 5-star accredited, #1 chamber, just got recognized. So for them to recognize Spark as a community
yes,
contributor was also truly awesome, mainly because Gwinnett County is home to so many powerful, wonderful nonprofits doing impactful work.
that's right.
So any recognition, in this county in particular, is an honor. So we appreciate it. And I mean, we're just going to continue to just keep doing the work that we're doing.
And I love it. I love that your work is impactful, but I also love that it's led by women who are moms, who know the community, and who really have a heart for the community, because we all know that this work is hard. It's hard physically, mentally, and it really pulls at your heart because of the stories that you live with, not just see and hear, but you live with them because the people you serve become a part of you.
Yeah. I have
So,
what I have sometimes what I call quiet days. Like
yeah.
if we've done outreach and I've heard a particularly moving story, there was the woman who had 7 children, um, and they were all living in one room. And so she was sharing her story because she exceeds the occupancy capacity of her room. So she doesn't want management to see her children. So she keeps them in
Mm,
the room with the shades drawn. So they can't
mm,
come outside. They have very little access to sunlight. I mean, they're just, living in darkness. And
mm,
she was fleeing from a domestic violence situation. So she
mhm.
said she works, she's doing the very best that she can, but the very best that she can has her family living in a motel with the shades drawn at all times with her children. She said they have to be quiet. She can't draw any attention of management or anything like that, because if
Right,
they put her out of there, then where does she go?
right, right.
So that when you hear those stories, and then at the end of the day, and you hear them, you'll hear many different stories when you're out there in the field. So I have what I call quiet days. Some days, like when I'm coming in from outreach, some days it's just, you just have to be quiet, because you live with the families that you helped, and then you truly live with the families that you haven't been able to help yet.
Yeah, and so those things sit with you, but so do the times when you can celebrate with your families, and celebrate the work that you're doing. And in 5 minutes, Tammy, I'm going to go to you because I know tonight you're going to be going to an event. I didn't realize you were a musician, but of course it comes honestly. But talk about the event that you're going to go to tonight, in support of Positive Impact. And you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. So we partnered up with Speech from Arrested Development. I have a band, me and my sister, and so we've done a lot with him musically, and he's also done a lot with the kids in our program. Just through arts, they've been in his music videos. They've done backgrounds for some of his songs on his albums, which has been really cool. But recently we did a collaboration, that one of the songs on Speech's new album is called Hip Hop Saves Lives, and he has a t-shirt designed, and basically 100% of the proceeds of the t-shirts that are being sold go to our organization. So tonight there's a Essence of Soul event happening in Atlanta. They're going to feature our organization, which I'm so grateful to be able to speak,
Yeah.
even out in that county about, what we're doing. And yeah, so we'll be at that event around 6 o'clock this evening.
I love it. I love it. You two are some of the busiest ladies I know. Quick question before we go, and that's about female veterans. Joy, specifically, do you all work with female veterans and their families?
We do. Some of the single moms that we work with are veterans. We don't do this now, but we ran a tech program because we were trying to help women transition to careers that would actually pay a higher wage. And our first graduate was a vet. I'm an Air
Oh,
Force vet.
wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
she was.
awesome.
Yeah, she was an
That's
Air Force
awesome.
vet. So yeah, we do. We do work with vets. A lot of our vets are single. A lot of our moms are vets.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you both for the work that you do. Once again, both of you, can you quickly give me your website so that people can get in contact with you all and help you out, help you to continue this great work?
Yes, so we are www.thepositiveimpact.org, and then Facebook, just look under Positive Impact International.
Excellent.
And we
And
are
well,
www.singleparent411.org, and we are at singleparent411 on our social media. And
awesome. You all have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.
thank
You've been
you.
joining us on Onward WCEG, and as I always end the show, gotta run.